All right, that was a really fun start to what I think is going to be a really fun ride. The 2024 NFL season, the Chiefs hang on to beat the Ravens in a photo finish. You literally had to look at the replay to figure things out there at the end. I can't believe that Lamar Jackson missed Zay Flowers on that play, and that was the penultimate play before the Isaiah Likely play where he was barely out of bounds. They had to go to replay, but it was clear, I think, on replay. It was the play before, though. You notice that in crunch time, the Chiefs will always line up Chris Jones at defensive end. I get it that he's a tackle. He's technically an interior lineman, but they like to move him around just as much as anybody. The Rams used to do that quite a bit with Aaron Donald, but not as much as the Chiefs do it with Chris Jones. And I thought on the second to last play, they picked him up. The Ravens picked up Chris Jones decently well coming off the edge, and it gave Lamar Jackson enough time to step up, and he just missed. He just missed Zay Flowers. But then when you move to the final play, Chris Jones won, and Lamar Jackson made a fantastic escape and what I thought was a fantastic throw to Isaiah Likely. And Isaiah Likely was not able to bring the ball down in bounds. He was out of bounds by about a centimeter. So, I mean, you have the great irony there, right? The protection is decent on the second to last play, and Lamar Jackson misses a wide open receiver. Then the protection isn't great on the last play, and the receiver is covered, but Lamar Jackson makes the fantastic throw, and it was almost a fantastic catch. But, you know, the end story of all of that complication is that the Chiefs win 27-20. Roger Rosengarten, how about that? The right tackle, the 49ers, the play that the 49ers were rumored to have wanted, did not look great on that one play against Chris Jones in the first half. Turned into a fumble from Lamar Jackson. Rosengarten is with the Ravens. They picked him very shortly after the 49ers. They went right before the 49ers, right? Yeah, it was right before the 49ers in the second round. San Francisco ended up going to Renardo Green instead. And then, of course, there is the case of Xavier Worthy, who had the rush for a touchdown around the edge, 21 yards, and then receiving-wise, he had the 35-yard touchdown. The speedster out of Texas, 2 catches, 47 yards for Xavier Worthy. There were a lot of rumors that the 49ers wanted him. I don't know if there was ever explicit confirmation that San Francisco wanted him. But the speedster, who was born in Fresno, went to Central, and then he went to Texas. And he was extremely, extremely fast in college, and we saw that speed as an added weapon for Patrick Mahomes today. Went in the first round before the 49ers picked Ricky Pearsall at 31. Xavier Worthy went to the Chiefs at number 28. Anyway, that's the start to the season. The 49ers hope that's not the finish to the season. They hope that the Chiefs don't win the final game of this year. 49ers want to beat the Chiefs. Maybe they're going to play the Ravens. It's interesting to me that the 49ers struggled against both of those two teams last season in very different ways. Obviously, I think they statistically controlled much of the game against the Chiefs, but still at crunch time, they weren't able to pick up the interior rush against Kansas City. So Chris Jones was working against the interior. I think the 49ers have tried to bolster that with Dominic Pooney. Against the Ravens, it's a lot harder to seriously analyze that game. I think a lot of things didn't bounce the 49ers way early, and then it snowballed. That was the Purdy interception game. I think that the biggest takeaway that you can glean from watching the Chiefs, watching the Ravens, and then projecting forward to who the 49ers might play if they make the Super Bowl again is both the Chiefs and the Ravens have invested heavily in the defense. And, that's one thing that's really evolved on the Kansas City side throughout the course of their dynasty. The defense is now, I think, a top 5 unit. Baltimore is a top 5 unit. And anytime that the defense is rigid, as is the case in Kansas City and Baltimore, that's going to travel well. It's going to age well, assuming that the health stays on that side of the ball heading deep into the season. And it's going to be tough to beat teams that have a really good defense. And that's why the 49ers defensive erosion last season was really, really troubling. This was a top 3 defense. consistently for San Francisco year after year after year. And then, yes, last year, all of a sudden it turns into a number 10 defense in the NFL. That's not good. There's a reason why they fired Steve Wilkes. It was an unacceptable regression for San Francisco defensively. Well, now they're going to be back out onto the field with a new defensive coordinator, Nick Sorensen, who's going to speak tomorrow. They're going to be out there with some new personnel, which I have analyzed thoroughly over the course of this offseason. Every teal or green shading is a new player. Teal is free agent. Green is a rookie. The 49ers are going to be bringing out a new group of players on the defensive side of the ball. Starters, Malik Collins, Leonard Floyd, Devondre Campbell, and Isaac Yiadom. That's 4 new defensive starters for the 49ers. If you include Jordan Elliott in the mix, he's not a starter, but he's going to be in that rotation playing a lot. You're going to have 5 new free agents for the 49ers playing a lot for this defense, plus the new coordinator, plus an outside mind in Brandon Staley. This is obviously a unit that Kyle Shanahan believes wasn't good enough last year. And the numbers show that they weren't good enough last year. Number 10 overall is not something that the 49ers like in terms of maximizing their chances of winning the Super Bowl. The offense did its job for San Francisco. They were the number 1 overall offense last year, but the defense, there were issues against the run. There were issues effort-wise. I mean, we saw with Chase Young in the NFC Championship game against the Detroit Lions, and ultimately the 49ers made a lot of changes. So their first test of this 2024 season comes against Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. And the first question that I have to ask is, can the 49ers stop that New York Jets run game? Because we have to throw everything that we saw from the New York Jets last year out the window. It's the only way that this works. I mean, they didn't have Aaron Rodgers for 99.9% of the year. Zach Wilson was terrible. Whoever else they put under center was terrible. That meant that you don't give your running backs a fair shot in that regard. They've got Breece Hall, Brock Purdy's former roommate and teammate from Iowa State, who rushed for 900 plus last year, had 400 plus his rookie year. So I think he's on a trajectory to be a 1,000-yard guy, and now he's finally going to have the passing support to maybe have some more open holes on the field. So it's going to come down to Breece Hall, year 3, with Aaron Rodgers supporting him. Can the 49ers play better than the number 26 run defense in the league? Can this new group of players, especially on the interior defensive line, and if you guys want some zoom here, I'll give you some zoom here on the defense. Can Malik Collins, Jordan Elliott, and these 2 guys, along with Leonard Floyd, setting a better edge, can these 2 guys set a more stiff interior and make sure that the 49ers pass rush can dig in against Aaron Rodgers? Because you have to stop the run to have some fun. Once again, the 49ers were the number 26 ranked run defense by EPA per play last year. Was not good enough, and the Jets have talent. Breece Hall is a good back. Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. So if there's a semblance of a run game for the Jets, all of a sudden you're playing this game uphill if you're the 49ers defense and you don't want to play the game uphill. I remember when Aaron Rodgers last beat the 49ers, it's the only time that Aaron Rodgers has beat, well, I guess he beat him in 2020, but the only time that he's beat a winning 49ers team in a long time was 2021, week 3 at Levi's. And people don't talk about it, but the Packers rushed for over 4 yards a carry in that game. It wasn't a necessarily explosive rushing effort for Green Bay against the 49ers, but it was a death by 1,000 paper cuts. They were constantly churning out sustainable yardage, which is over 4 yards per carry. If you just put it in simple terms, if you run the ball 3 times and it's 4 yards each time, then that's a first down up and down the field. 4 times 3 equals 12. So, and it seemed that Green Bay's floor was a 4-yard gain in that 2021 game. And that put the 49ers defense on its heels for the entirety of that game. They came back and they took the lead. There was a touchdown, I believe, to Kyle Juszczyk. I think Jimmy Garoppolo threw to Kyle Juszczyk to set up that score at the end of the game. But Green Bay turned around and there was that throw. It was Devontae Adams, who obviously isn't with Aaron Rodgers anymore. He's with the Raiders, not even with the Packers anymore. But it was Devontae Adams sneaking behind Fred Warner, who was playing a little bit too shallow, and Aaron Rodgers was able to put the Packers into field goal range, and they drilled it there at the end of the game, and they beat the 49ers, I believe, by 2 points. I think they were down by 1, and they won by 2. The reason that was possible is because the Packers ran the ball successfully earlier in the game. It was the start of the erosion of the 49ers run defense. They didn't have a good one in 2021 either. Got a bit better in 2022, fell off a cliff in 2023. So you have to stop the run so that Aaron Rodgers does not control game flow against you, because he's got weapons to control some of this game flow against the 49ers. They got Mike Williams now, 29, still not old, but he's been around the league for a bit, was with the Chargers before, coming off an injury last year, so he's going to be on a pitch count, but he's going to play for the New York Jets. They have Alan Lazard, Iowa State guy, former Cyclone, not Brock Purdy's former teammate. He graduated the season before Brock Purdy showed up. But they have Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is essentially the Devontae Adams in this offense. Really, really good route runner. He's not a rookie anymore. I think he's somebody that, just because of how precise of a route runner he is going to develop good rapport with Aaron Rodgers. So, I mean, there's danger in that receiving core. There's Xavier Gibson is in the receiving core as well, but I think it's Garrett Wilson you have to be most worried about. Now, 49ers have their best DB unit that they've had in the entire Shanahan-Lynch era. They keep on talking about it, something I brought up, months ago when I saw this on paper, and it's definitely something that Nick Bosa believes now. I think Kyle Shanahan believes it now. I think John Lynch believes it now. Charvarius Ward believes it now. So I don't know how much man coverage we're going to see versus how much zone coverage we're going to see in this game. 49ers have run more man over time. I think the 49ers have the ability to run more man now. I think they have the personnel to be able to do it. So do we see Charvarius Ward against Garrett Wilson? Or, do we see more slot alignments from a receiver like Garrett Wilson? And does that mean that the 49ers 100% full-time move of Deommodore Lenoir to inside cornerback in those nickel packages, does that mean that he gets that responsibility if the 49ers are in man? Who does Mike Williams go up against? I mean, the 49ers have, and then Isaac Yiadom, I think, takes away a big weakness, and that was whenever Ambry Thomas had to play on the outside for San Francisco. So to me, this is a really, really intriguing matchup between Aaron Rodgers and a back end for the 49ers that is promisingly good, promisingly talented, promisingly deep. And Rodgers is going to try, to beat the 49ers, you have to attack the second level as well. The linebackers are damn good for San Francisco, and they're damn good in coverage. I'm going to play a clip of Jets coach Robert Salah, who obviously used to be the 49ers defensive coordinator, talking about the 49ers defense that he helped start. Listen in, I want you to have really a tuned hearing here. Listen into what he says about Fred Warner in this clip.
A play standpoint, they still get after it. You still see Bosa. I know Hargrave, he wasn't there, but he's adopted it. Obviously Fred, their back end. There's a lot of new faces, but the style of play, the tenacity, the overall core philosophy of the defense obviously is still there, and they've done a great job. Kyle's done a great job, and D'Amico, and going all the way through. So, obviously there's bear on fire, and they play with a style.
Do you take pride in that, Robert? Because that was your defense, and now it's been carried through this third generation.
I don't know about pride. I do think it is cool. Just a lot of those guys who were just pups when we got there. Bosa was a rookie. Fred was a nickel that we turned into a Mike linebacker, and knock on wood for him, he's been able to stay healthy, and he's had great production. Greenlaw, I know he's not playing, I don't think, but he's another guy that grew so much. But they've got so much talent. They've got a very good understanding of the defense, and it's cool because we did it together, and it's. Like I said, I'm standing here because of those guys, and so very grateful for them.
Isn't that cool? Robert Saleh acknowledges, yeah, he's a head coach now because of what he built in San Francisco with that defense. They actually ranked number 2 in the NFL in all the efficiency metrics back in 2019, behind the Patriots that year. The Patriots had a really good defense, but uh, for those who were there, not just that season, but especially the year before, when the 49ers didn't have an edge rush, that was something else, because they drafted Nick Bosa and then they traded for and signed D Ford, who, when he was healthy at the start of his tenure with the 49ers, was really damn good. They went from having no edge rush. I mean, consider how bad the 49ers were in 2018 without the edge rush. They finished with only 2 interceptions, which is the lowest total in NFL history, because they couldn't get pressure on, they weren't making quarterbacks uncomfortable. So quarterbacks were just picking them apart, not needing to take any risks because they had so much time. So it was like night and day. The second that you saw Bosa and D Ford collapse the pocket from the outside, they called it the gold rush that year, everything changed. It was that first game against Tampa Bay. And you know what the 49ers do, and what's going to be really interesting against Aaron Rodgers, because they've had success against them in the past when they can actually execute the rush and stop the run. But here, let me explain how all the pieces have to come together. What the 49ers do is they line the edge rushers up wide so they can get that angle around the offensive tackles. They call it the wide 9. There's more space in between each defensive lineman. And I think it makes them a little bit more vulnerable against the run, because you've got more space. The defensive tackles especially really have to be able to be athletic, take on double teams, cover ground. And when you don't have a great DT play, so the 49ers, back when Salah was around, they had DJ Jones, they had Eric Armstead, paired with DJ Jones. When you don't have great defensive tackle play, it can get sketchy against the run. And I think that's part of the issue of what happened last year, is that, DJ Jones not around anymore. Plus Eric Armstead now starting to get hurt. He missed 13 games of the past 2 seasons. So you're thin in the middle where you need to be strong to run the wide 9. And I think that led to a lot of problems against the run. Also, the linebackers have to be dedicated by the defensive coordinator to take on the run game. And I don't think that Steve Wilkes was as dedicated with the linebackers as guys like Salah and DeMeco Ryans were against the run game. And I think that's another reason why the 49ers fell down to number 26. But the linebackers, I mean, this is really interesting. The linebackers, they not only have to be good plugging big gaps because they're filling in behind a wide 9. The modern reality of the NFL dictates that the linebackers also have to be good in coverage. And that's where Warner was a nickel. Salah just said it. He was a nickel we turned into a linebacker. That's where his coverage skills come in. 49ers love linebackers with DB backgrounds. And a lot of people say, Warner wasn't a nickel. You just heard Salah say it there. Warner, he was a DB at BYU in college. He was playing in the slot. He was covering people. Makes him an ideal linebacker for the 49ers because now he could play the run well, but he could cover even better. Somebody like Devondre Campbell, we're going to see how he fits into this system. Hasn't been with the 49ers before, but he has been in the system back with the Falcons before he was with the Packers. So he's going to fill in for Dre Greenlaw. Curtis Robinson can run. He was a linebacker at Stanford, but I think he's a guy who can cover. Demetrius Flanagan-Foles was a safety at Arizona. D. Winters was a safety and a wide receiver coming out of high school. Played safety early on at TCU, or at least came to TCU as a safety before they changed him to a linebacker. The only pure linebacker that the 49ers drafted or brought in out of this group, I know they signed Devondre Campbell later on. So the only pure linebacker is Tatum Bethune. You could see where the 49ers are going with this. They want coverage adaptability. That's really important to them. So, back to my original point. When you run the wide 9, you've got big gaps to cover. The defensive tackles have to cover as many of those as possible, but the linebackers also have to be really good at shooting those gaps and having the quickness to take on more space, with the defensive ends being closer to the sideline. You stretch that defensive line out. So you have to have the personnel to get things done. Really, really good on the top two levels. 49ers overhauled the first level, and Aaron Rodgers talked a little bit about the 49ers defensive talent that he'll be facing.
Got against, that's great defense, a lot of great players on it. Got against, a few of the guys over the years now. Two new faces, obviously, every year as there is in the league. New coordinator. Staley's on the staff. So there'll be, I'm sure some unscouted looks that we always see in the first few weeks, but good test for us.
This is how old Aaron Rodgers is. I remember him, this is before I was covering the 49ers, being asked why the 49ers defense is so damn good back when Harbaugh was the coach, back when you had Justin Smith, Aldon Smith, Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman, all those guys, Deshaun Goldson. And I remember Aaron Rodgers essentially giving the same exact answer as he just gave, that you just heard him give. He's like, yep, they're a great defense because they have a lot of great players. Some of the guys from that defense are now in the Hall of Fame. At least one of them is Patrick Willis. Congratulations to him. But, the fact that Aaron Rodgers, wasn't like a young guy. I mean, he had already been in the league for a while at that point, was going against that 49ers defense and saying the same exact thing about that defense as he's saying about this one, saying they have a lot of great players. And guys from that defense, or at least one guy from that defense, is now in the Hall of Fame. Just shows you Aaron Rodgers' longevity. He's been in the league for a really, really long time. Now, that 49ers team, the Harbaugh defense, they always got the best of Aaron Rodgers. This iteration of the 49ers, they have lost to Aaron a couple times in 2020 and 2021. But this is definitely a more talented 49ers unit. Let's hear a little bit more from Aaron Rodgers from the media availability back on the East Coast.
Yeah, I mean, it's all different people. I've outlasted, a lot of the people over there. A lot of them are still coaching around the league. There's, it's a great staff over there. I played against John Lynch. That's how old I am. And obviously I had battles against Kyle and Sorensen now. I think I played against him too. So I think there's a lot of familiarity there. Obviously, it's fun to go back to the Bay Area. But it really is just another game. I mean, this had happened first or second year as a starter. It's kind of a different energy when all the guys who you feel like passed on you, you have some sort of like bitterness you're holding on to. I don't have any of that anymore.
Look at that smile on Aaron Rodgers' face. I mean, he looks really relaxed and happy. He's going to want to stay healthy this time. I think that would help keep that smile on his face through this year. 49ers have Leonard Floyd, who sacked Rodgers in the play where he tore his Achilles last season. Always an interesting twist. Speaking of Rodgers against Nick Bosa, we could talk about the line that the 49ers are going to be operating against. And it wasn't a good offensive line for the Jets last year. That was part of the problem for keeping Aaron Rodgers healthy, early in the season. We saw those first few snaps against the Bills before he went down with the torn Achilles on the Leonard Floyd sack, and it looked rough. Now they've changed some things. They've added Tyron Smith in free agency. Theoretically, that makes the left side better. But it goes Smith, John Simpson, the former Baltimore Raven at left guard, Joe Tippmann at center, Elijah Vera Tucker, homegrown right guard for the Jets, and then Morgan Moses, another Raven at right tackle. The Ravens now have Roger Rosengarten, the Washington product, the rookie, playing on that right side. So we'll see if the Jets get materially better up front, but it was brutal to begin last season. And I think with an older quarterback like Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles, you've got to get better. And I think that's why they invested some big free agent money in the offensive line. But that's all TBD. The 49ers have had success against Tyron Smith in the past. The most success actually belonged to Charles Omenihu, who's now with the Chiefs. But Nick Bosa will line up on both sides. We'll see which side he prefers in this game. Sometimes the flow of the game lets him kind of settle into to where he wants to be. So we'll see what Bosa does. We'll see what Leonard Floyd does in terms of the cleanup sacks. I maintain that this is the most talented 49ers roster that we've seen under Shanahan and Lynch. Matt Barrows agrees with me. He said it the other day. When I said it 2 days ago, I said all these improvements. It was for some reason controversial. Other people start saying a day after, and they really corroborate that. I mean, just look at the roster through and through. Definitely the deepest secondary. I will say that the linebackers are worse right now without Dre Greenlaw, but I think that the defensive line was really disappointing last year. I think the only way feasibly for this unit is up, and they've added so many players. Now, the two hurt guys, Yetur Gross-Matos and D. Winters, were off on the side today for the 49ers. It doesn't seem like they're going to play. We'll see practice tomorrow. Maybe one of them's back, but I would say it's trending toward them not being back until week 2. But they are pushing some heavy sleds off on the side doing their rehab work. As far as the rest of what the Jets can bring to the table, it's Aaron Rodgers. We know how good he is. He's coming off the Achilles. Everybody gets that. Garrett Wilson is a really good route runner at receiver. They've got Tyler Conklin, the former Minnesota Viking, playing at that tight end position, and they've got a sketchy offensive line. The top running back is Breece Hall. I'm going to get so much more into the Breece Hall, Brock Purdy, former roommate rivalry as we go through this. I'm going to give you guys the 49ers update video now. We heard so much about Ricky Pearsall, and we saw Ricky Pearsall today. So on the practice field, which to me is remarkable. So I made a report from the facility that I think is worth putting up on the screen now. Let's check it out.
It was another monumental day here at the 49ers practice facility. We've got a couple of those in a row at this point, but Ricky Pearsall, who was shot in the chest on Saturday, was back out on the 49ers practice field today. No, he's not practicing. He's on a non-football injury list. He's going to have to be there at least 4 weeks. But Ricky Pearsall is chomping at the bit to get back out onto the field with his teammates in uniform. I mean, this is nothing short of miraculous. Kyle Shanahan spoke today, and he said that the emergency room people told him that 2 out of 100 people survive a gunshot wound near the area where Ricky Pearsall took the bullet on Saturday, which is on his chest. Kyle Shanahan mentioned that there's a tattoo that Ricky Pearsall has, and there are 2 hands pressed together praying in that spot of the chest, and the bullet entered Ricky Pearsall's chest 2 inches under that tattoo. Yet he not only survived, but he walked to the ambulance, and he was able to be in the weight room less than 48 hours later, and now he's literally standing out on the practice field, chomping at the bit to get out there. Shanahan said that shortly after the shooting, Ricky Pearsall said, "I still think I could play against the Jets." Unfortunately, Ricky Pearsall is not going to play against the Jets because the 49ers put him on NFI, but this is nothing short of miraculous. Shanahan telling his side of the story. He was hosting the party for the players that night. Remember, Pearsall told John Lynch that he wanted the party to go on, so Shanahan remained in the South Bay. But just listening to Shanahan talk about it, listening to some of the players talk about it, some of the players were asking me about the court session that I was at yesterday involving the suspect and now the defendant who's been charged with attempted murder on top of attempted robbery. Just the way that the 49ers have approached this. The team itself has said all the right things, but you can also sense that this was a galvanizing moment for San Francisco. And it just so happened to be sandwiched in between the Brandon Ayuk contract signing and the Trent Williams contract signing. So it was just a flurry, a whirlwind this weekend. And today, for the first time, we got to see the 49ers practice really in full. There was only a 5-minute viewing window on Tuesday. Today was the first full Jets week practice. And Kyle Shanahan named the captains for this practice. So the 8 49ers captains for this 2024 season are Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Kyle Juszczyk, George Kittle, and Trent Williams. Last year, Nick Bosa was not a captain because last year, Nick Bosa, I think he signed on this day last year. It was Thursday of last season. Might have been Wednesday, but it was after the captain's vote, which I believe happened on Tuesday. So the only thing that prevented Nick Bosa from being a captain last year was the fact that he wasn't there for the captain's vote. Trent Williams got into this building in time for the captain's vote this season. And the 49ers, I mean, what a star-studded group that is going to represent the 49ers with the C on their jersey this year. We got a tour of Levi's Stadium today. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. They have some new suites at Levi's Stadium, so you're going to get to see the look at the new suites, and they'll ultimately replace all the suites with the new decorations and new design once the entire renovation is complete. Remember, this is the 10th year of Levi Stadium, but we also got to take a look at the new food that they're going to be offering at Levi's this year. So stay tuned for that. First, we got to take a look at Trent Williams out at practice. I think he's looking in good shape. Remember, when we talked to Trent on Tuesday, he said that he actually started his training regimen this offseason earlier than at any other point of his career. So he seems freshly motivated to go out there and dominate this season. He wants to be the dominant tackle at age, this year would be 36, but he wants to be doing it at 38, 39, 40. He mentioned winning Super Bowls at 41 and 42. And just at first look, it looks like Trent Williams is ready to do that. Brandon Ayuk also fully on the practice field. We didn't get to see it on Tuesday because the viewing window was only 5 minutes. Today was much longer. Brandon Ayuk was out there with the 49ers receivers. He was moving well. I think that Brandon Ayuk might have put on a little bit of muscle since last year. I noticed that even during the hold-in when he was standing on the sideline here at practice. And then it was Ricky Pearsall, of course, that wandered over to check out what the receivers are doing because Pearsall definitely wants to get out there. We'll play some video of Kyle Shanahan at the very end of this talking about the Ricky Pearsall incident, the fact that the bullet went 2 inches between the hands that were pressed together, praying. It definitely seems like a miraculous instance for the 49ers, given the fact that Kyle Shanahan heard that only 2 out of 100 people survive the type of gunshot wound that Ricky Pearsall was indeed able to survive on Saturday. First, though, why don't we take a look at the tour of the new stadium? First, a look at some of the food at Levi Stadium. The burger in particular was really, really good. But we have a little bit of a walkthrough of the food that you can take a look at now, and a special appearance from Chuck's Flavor Train. He's got some awesome content. You guys need to check out Chuck's Flavor Train. He was here, and I said, hey, I got to record a little bit of something with you. So have to help support some of those 49ers fans who are doing big things, and Chuck's Flavor Train is taking off online. Have a look at it.
Today was amazing. As you can see, I'm protruding. I ate like a beast, and I'm ready to feast some more. I got a platter full of food back there, and I'm going to go back to work. I get a little rowdy, not just me. There's a table full of my constituents back here. We all like to have fun, celebrate the 49ers. There we go. That's what it's about. So, we like to have fun out here, and there's no better place to do it than Levi Stadium.
And after I was done with the sweets and with the new food, Nick Wolf with the 49ers showed me the frictionless beer purchasing station. This is on the main concourse level of Levi Stadium, and it was really neat.
Yeah, so the industry's starting to change quite a bit now, and what we wanted to do here is to start to take bits and pieces of the frictionless environment that you might see at other stadiums and arenas in the country right now actually getting deployed. Intuit's a great example. They have a whole stadium that's frictionless, and so it's just this building being 11 years old, gives us an opportunity to really go and say, okay, what do we want the next generation of Levi Stadium to be? And so you'll see this piece of this piece of frictionless real estate here, and then you'll see around the corner we did 2 different concepts. One is just a beer grab and go concept, and then we have one that's in a kind of a brick and mortar concession stand where you would have items that you could go pick up that are hot and cold items as well. And so we'll run this for the next 2 years, potentially, maybe a little bit less, and then I'd make a decision on how many more of these we would want to add in the building. This has changed almost the way you wait in lines, and if so, anybody that's been at Levi Stadium or any large stadiums in the last 5 to 10 years, you wait in lines almost anywhere. And this shrunk a line from 3 minutes down to 30 seconds. And so that gave us a first indication that we were onto something.
And finally, a quick injury report for the 49ers. They finally had to release the injury list. And the only 2 players on active roster who did not practice today were the defensive lineman Yetur Gross-Matos and the linebacker D. Winters. Gross-Matos with the knee injury, Winters with the ankle injury. Both of those guys were working on the side field, pushing some heavy sleds. So I suppose there's a chance they're back Monday against the Jets, but I think it's probably more likely they're going to be back week 2 for the 49ers. It's a road trip to Minnesota. Limited in practice today, and now we have official injury designations. It's Christian McCaffrey, Jawan Jennings, Isaac Guerrero, and Talanoa Hufanga, by the way, got some footage of Hufanga too. He seems to be moving okay for San Francisco. I think he's going to be listed as questionable or this week, maybe even doubtful for the 49ers this week. But he's working back for San Francisco off the torn ACL. McCaffrey's listed officially with a calf and an Achilles. It's nothing to worry extra about right now. That's been the injury the whole time. The calf and the Achilles, obviously, very closely related. But now that the 49ers have to list these injuries fully, they didn't have to before week 1. They put the word Achilles on there, but don't be scared just because they tossed the word Achilles onto there. It's the same issue that Christian McCaffrey was resting throughout most of August. Juwan Jennings with an ankle, and then there is Garendo with the groin, and Hufanga obviously coming off of the knee injury, the ACL.
All right, look, I teleported. I'm here now. I think I switched hats too. Other news. Brandon Allen wins QB2 for the 49ers. This got kind of buried with other stuff that happened today, but Dobbs is QB3, Brandon Allen's QB2. That can obviously change over the course of the season if something happens in practice and the 49ers feel that Dobbs is mastering the playbook to an even greater degree. I think he got really comfortable over the course of training camp. But Allen started this ahead because he knew the playbook entering the offseason. Dobbs was signed as a free agent. I think that we saw from the quarterback order throughout the course of camp and then the preseason that Dobbs was the favorite in this race, that Allen was the favorite in this race. And he did end up taking that QB2 spot. 49ers hope that obviously they don't need to use QB2. They want Purdy to stay healthy throughout the course of the season. Really, really interesting comment from Robert Salah, or just commentary from Robert Salah on the two running backs in this game, the two top running backs. Christian McCaffrey of the 49ers, who is the right-hand man for Brock Purdy now in the NFL, and Breece Hall for the Jets, who was the right-hand man for Brock Purdy back in college for Iowa State. Why don't we have a listen in to Robert Salah on Hall versus McCaffrey?
They're similar but different. They're both 3-down football players that are elite with the ball in their hands. They're both fantastic playmakers, home run hitters, and people you have to game plan for. But both are relentless in their pursuit to be great. Both are relentless with the ball in their hands. Both are elite as route runners. Both are elite with the at catching the ball. I mean, they've got elite vision. It's their play style, and how they achieve it might be a little bit different, but they're both very, 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 very good.
All right, and with that, it's time to move to 49ers Q&A after hell of a game. Again, I put this at the top. Chiefs-Ravens, 27-20 by a centimeter. The Ravens would have gone for 2 had Isaiah Likely been in bounds. And Mike texted me 2 plays earlier when Isaiah Likely was lying there in a crumpled heap. He's like, I think Isaiah Likely broke his collarbone. And I agree. It didn't look bad. It didn't look good. It looked bad. Lo and behold, 5 seconds later, maybe 2 minutes later, we see Isaiah Likely back in the game, takes a play off. Looks like he catches, and initially it is ruled as the tying touchdown. And no, or actually the touchdown that would have set up the 2-point conversion. It was actually out of bounds. Chiefs got away with some stuff in that game. Steve Spagnuolo tried to call timeout, and they granted it to him, even though head coaches are the ones that are allowed to call timeout in these games. So I don't know what that was about, but Chiefs caught a break there. Mahomes was able to catch his own deflection. That was a big play for Kansas City. It prevented an interception on that 3rd down, but also kept the clock rolling for the Baltimore Ravens. It was the play where Isaiah Pacheco was able to keep on running because he fell down, but he fell on top of a couple guys. It happens in these games. Kansas City was able to prevail against the Ravens team that wouldn't go down easily today. Fun to watch. Should be the start of a good journey. Let's move to the 49ers Q&A, though, after this big post-game report. Got people getting hungry. I'm hungry, too. I'm going to have to get a burrito after this. But I wanted to give you guys the show first. Mark asked, do I think the 49ers have fixed the big runs they let up against the Packers and the Lions in the playoffs? We'll see. I mean, they overhauled the entire defensive line and they fired their defensive coordinator. So I think the defensive coordinator part, I don't think Wilkes was using Warner and the linebackers in run support. I think he was cheating too much in the coverage with the linebackers. I think that they're going to go back to basics in that regard. That should help, but there's new personnel along the defensive line. So questions must be answered, and we're going to start to find answers on Monday. Biggest weakness that the Jets will target. Aaron Rodgers loves finding matchups. Is he going to like a matchup against Isaac Yiadom? Maybe he's going to like Garrett Wilson lining up sometimes on the inside against Deommodore Lenoir. I mean, you can have a good defender, but then you could also have a matchup that the offense likes. That the offense in the NFL is favored over the defense. It's an offensive league. So I think they're going to probably try to find one of those wide receiver matchups. But that's all contingent on the run game early on. And I think the Jets, it's just in general, you look at a wide nine, and if the wide nine is not great as far as eating up blocks on the inside and having good mobility from the defensive tackles, if it's not great in that regard, there are going to be holes that you could puncture as an opposing offense. So I think the Jets are going to try to run the football. They can run the football. I think they're going to pick their matchups downfield. So it's really important as the basis of everything. It's like the foundation. If you're building a house or even a bigger building, a skyscraper, you have to stop the run in NFL. Otherwise, you're playing the game uphill as a defense, and that's never any fun. People are going crazy. They're not happy with the Chiefs game. Then, yeah, well, so I mentioned this. I didn't even know that the announcers mentioned this, but the Chiefs moved Chris Jones around. I mentioned this at the top of the show. Chris Jones, second to last play, was lined up at defensive end. He's technically a tackle. Second to last play, he actually, he won on the last play. He lost on the second to last play. The running back picked Chris Jones up, and Lamar Jackson was able to step up. He had a little bit of extra time, but he missed Zay Flowers. The last play of the game, Chris Jones won, but Lamar, on a harder play for him and a harder throw to Isaiah Likely, made the throw. It was just out of bounds. So I thought that it was a bit ironic how that finished. But speaking of this, yes, Jones, as you can tell, in crunch time lines up as a defensive end because he's the Chiefs' best option and they want that edge rushing presence. Nick Bosa does move around. Nick Bosa moves from right defensive end to left defensive end, back and forth. He doesn't play tackle. Chris Jones starts at tackle, moves outside. There'd be no reason to move Nick Bosa inside to tackle. You want him to work on the edge in the pass rushing situations. What the 49ers will do, move him. What the 49ers will do is they'll move somebody like Yetur Gross-Matos inside to work against guards on pass obvious situations. They've done it with Charles Omenihu. They've done it with Arden Key. And they line up in an ASCAR package with Nick Bosa at his natural end position. You see guys move from the inside out that are star players in the NFL. Donald did it for the Rams. You don't see it happen with Nick Bosa. You keep Bosa at the edge rusher spot, working against the tackle. You bring the secondary or maybe even the number 3 defensive end on your team and Yetur Gross-Matos. You can move him inside so he can work against guards. Use his athleticism to his advantage. Hope that answers your question. Hope the show took care of everything you needed to take care of. It's a little bit late now. Still went 44 minutes. Hit that like button. Hit the sub button. Big day coming tomorrow. We'll talk to everybody soon.